where is the challenge, you know, in it for today? Is it in my mind? Like sometimes your mind is just okay, and so you're working just more physically in your body with the practice. And then other times your mind is very agitated and disturbed, and so the physical part, like, is just not as important. And it's easy to not want to work with the mental part, just to be like
when you're in physical pain, it's
or with even if you're not in physical pain, if you're in mental anguish, if you're, you know, in turmoil inside while you're practicing, that is not fun, you know. And if what is happening in your body or in your practice at a given time, like, disturbs you mentally or emotionally, it's challenging to have to deal with that, you know.
right.
But that is your job, is to, like, wow, like, this is coming up for me, whatever it is, like, you know, it could be anger, you know, or like resentment, or some kind of resistance to what is happening inside, like either physically, mentally, just not wanting to be where you are.
And that's when you're working with the psychological edge.
Yeah, and that's where you're like, and that you can gain some strength and power by just letting that acknowledge it to yourself. That, oh, this is where the challenge is right now, and that I need to see this as important and care for it, rather than try to bully through it or push and just, you know, practice, just be physical and do the asanas. You know, that there's a mental sensitivity and care about your awareness of how you're feeling, what's happening, and giving space for that.
And do you think that in the beginning when you're practicing, that for most people they really are more just working on the physical part of it, but the psychological part of it doesn't really start to enter into the picture after a few years?
I think that's a common pattern, for sure. And I think we try pretty hard to keep that physical sense of it, you know, like, because we resist that mental part because it's so challenging, and just don't want to admit to ourselves, like, how much our minds are actually torturing us and making us suffer, like how we're thinking and what, you know, and are ignoring what we're thinking, really, you know, and not wanting to really get down and face that. And so you keep it physical is more keeping it physical is just, it's easier, and, you know, and to some, and there's a practicality to it. That's the interesting part, is like distinguishing what type of emotions to pay attention to. I mean, a lot of it just needs to be let go of or dismissed. Like, there's a certain mental strength that you don't just let your moods and your little, you know, psychological things run all over you and take you here and take you there, you know. So there's a certain, just, you move forward, you practice, and that just breathing and moving brings you to a better space. But then some of it's not like that. It actually needs its own time, its own attention. It needs to be, like, carefully observed and felt and, like, transformed through just being with it. You know, that's so different than just moving through it physically without giving it space.
And that's sort of where I guess you just have to trust that by sitting with it, it's going to take care of itself, I guess.
Or you'll see how to gain power over it, or to move through it. And also, some of it's just, it sucks. You just sit there with it, and you it's almost like time out-ish. You just have to last it out and not ignore it, but just that some of it gets deeper and deeper, the patterns, and they become very just these ingrained patterns within you that are so hard to change, you know, and so that you have to, there's an acceptance that has to come, that you just, you know, it's hard not to get discouraged, but I mean, there it is, there it is, that's how I respond every time, and you know, and then my response takes me here, but that isn't a good place for me to go, but I still keep going there. And so you have to like have that patience to just accept it, observe it, and slowly you can work away at it. Slowly, it can take years. It can take your lifetime to really see through. And this is the part why we want to avoid that too, is how big it is inside of us and how hard it is to change. You know, the Guruji has that quote about, you know, it's an internal practice. Everything else is a circus.
Yeah.
And so, you know, whatever's going to bring you to that internal place. And see, this is the thing. Unfortunately, it takes so many of us pain to come to that internal place. That as long as you can flow and just do your asanas, you're just going to dig it. You're just going to be like, whoa, that's rad, you know? Rather than, I don't know, really dig in and see even how you're reacting to the pleasant sensations.
Yeah.
Because that's just as key as looking at how you're reacting to the heavy, gross sensations. So it's like, it's your reaction that you're looking at. Like, yeah, what do you do with your flow when you can flow? You know? And what type of intention is behind it, and where do you go to mentally with it?
Right.
You know, and when it's voluntary, where to go. When there's freedom, when there's choice. Every practice, there's certain postures where you do drop into this centered place, this place of just undeniable wisdom, you know, of inner clarity, you know, just so strong, like the presence within you that just not superficial.